Well, Murray Angus happens to be a friend of mine, is a lifelong resident of Brantford, spent most of his work life in the family jewelry business with his father, Andy Angus. Remember Angus Jewelers down there in King Street? Local historian Murray is a passionate advocate for preserving Brantford's rich history and has dedicated much of his life to uncovering and sharing the stories of his hometown. Murray developed a fascination with the city's past during his teenage years spent downtown. Probably hung out on street corners just like I did when I lived. and his father's jewelry store in the old building on King Street provided a unique opportunity for Murray to connect with Brantford's historical roots. Murray's passion for history extends beyond personal anecdotes. He actively contributes to preserving Brantford's heritage through various projects and initiatives, notably as a member of the Brantford Historical Society, learning and writing about our city's history. Murray has also served in the community as a member of the Kiwanis Club and the Brantford Probus Club. And today he's going to be talking about some of Brantford's downtown street corners. And you used to hang out on those street corners, did you, Murray?
I think we all did, Dave. You and I both remember, I'm sure everyone here remembers when people used to go downtown in the evening and just walk around downtown, look in store windows and window shop at 8 o'clock at night on a Saturday. And, I remember all that stuff. We used to leave our windows all decorated with merchandise at our jewelry store because we knew people would be walking around in the evening, looking in windows. So, yeah. All right. Well, all right. Are you done then, Dave? Are we good to go? Because you're mute. Okay. Hello. Good morning, everyone. I'm happy to be here today to share some new and old photos with you about our Brantford's downtown street corners through the years. And I'm not sure why. Let me see what's going on. Oh, there we are. Everyone recognizes this street corner, of course. This is now our new city hall, and it's been through a number of stages in its life, that building and previous. Before it looked like this, well, it looked like this. This is the exact same corner, and now you can see this building this is Queen Street down here on the far left side. That's the old fire station. But this building here was built in 1844, believe it or not, by uh, Charles Van Brocklen, who made it the Brantford Foundry in way back, I'd say 180 years ago. And he had a young man come to work for him by the name of Charles Watrous, who 10 years later bought the business from him and converted it and changed it to the Watrous Engine Works. This picture here was taken around 1895, excuse me, because they built a large factory down on Market Street, which we all remember turned into Coring Watrous. But this building was torn down. I was going to show you this down here at the far end. This little building here right on the corner. This section of the building was stores, and one of them right next to Van Brocklin's and what Watches was the Brantford Courier newspaper office. And then when the city bought the building in 1913 or 1910 or whatever, tore it all down. It was an empty lot. And you can see this is the fire station that I told you about, the tower in the other picture. This is our original police station. Excuse me. Right here is our police station. And the lot here is empty. Now, the camels are here because who doesn't love pictures of camels? But when the circus came to town, they used to stop the train at the corner or at the train station on Market, unload all their animals and their wagons, and march from the train station down Market Street, take a right on Dalhousie, and go across the bridge to Agriculture Park. But this is a picture I have that shows the lot when it was empty. And excuse me. Here is the construction. In 1913, the federal government bought the lot from the city and started building the federal building. And this is what you can see here under construction. And there it is. Oh, excuse me. It's kind of finished, but as you can see, the dome isn't on it. There are men standing around the top, all around here. All these are all the stonemasons and the concrete workers that were putting the building together. And here it is in the late 1920s when it was finished. And you can see it was a short building then. The addition that is on it that we all remember, all know, was not put on until 1960. This edition here. And there's a picture of what it looks like today with our City Hall sign on it. That was a $26.6 million renovation. They bought the building for $5.9 million, put another $20 million, $21 million into renovating it. And if you haven't had a chance to go inside and get a tour, you should arrange it because it's absolutely beautiful what they've done with the second and third floors. And of course, the mayor's office is right here, and you can go in his office and you go up into the bell tower if he's available for a tour. Across the street, we have this building, which everyone recognizes, I'm sure. That was my first bank account in that Canadian Imperial Bank of Commerce. And they built this building in 1955, and they closed it in the early 70s. But this building, of course, prior to being a bank, was our fire hall. And the fire hall was built in 1860. And of course, it housed horses and wagons. And you can still see the building here, which some of you remember as a John Peel dining room here, just to the left of the fire hall. And this building, which some of you may remember as the Graham Bell Hotel, as it's also gone through a number of different restaurant iterations over the years. But this particular building right here, the old John Peel, that's the oldest building still left in downtown Brantford. But that was what our old fire hall looked like until 19 whenever when they tore it down in 1955 and built the bank. And here we are. And this street corner on the corner of Queen and Colburn Street, a lot of you recognize this building. This building was built early. I'm trying to remember. But this is called the Steel Building, and this particular building was built in 1921. And you can see the wording at the top here, Steel Building, and it was the steel company was very similar to Eaton's and Sears. They sold dry goods, clothes. They were just like a very nice general retailer, but they had this store, men's wear, ladies wear, that sort of thing. And this was 1921. But prior to this building, this corner looked like this. This was the Bank of Toronto. And they were there since 1910. And then it became the Steel Building in 1921. In 1936, it went back to the Bank of Toronto when they moved back into the Steel Building. And the Bank of Toronto then, of course, became the Toronto Dominion Bank. But that's what the bank looked like. That's what the building looked like back in the early. Speaking of banks, this is the Canada Trust Building. It was built in 1964. And before it was the Toronto Dominion Bank, and now it's the TD Canada Trust, it was a hotel. And built in the 1850s. It changed its name a number of times. It went from the Park House to Prince of Wales Hotel, became the Art Tavern, and then the Bodega Art Tavern. Became known as the Bodega Hotel in the 1940s, and then there it is as the Bodega, same building. You can see they've added dormers all around the top of it when it became the Bodega. And there it is again as the Bodega Inn and the Bodega Tavern. They had a reputation for having the best shoe shine guy in the city. They used to have competitions between them and the Kirby Hotel as to who had the best shoe shine guy working for them. And then in March of 1962, there was a destroyed the top floor and the roof caved in, and there was damage to that amounted to over $100,000. So, unfortunately, after that fire in 1962, Bodega was torn down, and it became that. And then this is the building that was built in its place. I kind of like the old one, honestly, but some buildings don't change. This is our commercial building, built in 1881. This building housed all kinds of different businesses, retail. Um, the library was on the second floor for a while here, but way back in the late 1800s, and the museum was in here in the early 1900s before they built the Carnegie Library. But it hasn't changed much. There it is in 1927, same building. And I love this sign here, the Patricia Cafe, when people were very proud of their eating establishments, apparently. So this building and this building are the same one. You all recognize this building. And since 2003, it's been renovated and is to become Laurier University Residences. And it was called the Post House Residence. And the reason was it used to be our first post office. This was built in 1880, and it was very impressive at the time for a city to have our size, to have a post office and customs office this big. It cost $35,000 to build it when they did that. Then it became the Holstein Friesian office, and then it became a lawyer's office until the until the early 2000s, when the Holstein people moved to a new building, and this became Laurier Residences. There we are. Everyone recognizes this street corner. This is, of course, the Oriental Hotel. And before that, it became the Oriental in 1977. Prior to that, It was the Bernard Haid House, and he was a grocer. And I think these bags here are cured meats, like hams and pork sides that they would hang outside for you to come and buy your meat or your vegetables and things inside. But again, this building has changed very little over the years. It still looks like it did before. The This particular building we all know as the Vegas Lounge is what it is now. Um, and the bank moved into this building in 1921. It built the bank, the Dominion Bank built this building, and oh, I'll tell you, this is right here. Oh, you see my marker? That's the corner of Dalhousie, and this is Market Street in 1850. And this is where this used to be right here, originally was the Brantford House. And when the Brantford House got torn down, it became the Dominion Bank. They built this beautiful building. And let me see, 1955, the Dominion Bank formed a partnership with the Bank of Toronto, and of course, became the Toronto Dominion Bank, and they moved around the corner and down the street. We'll talk about that in a minute. Um, but they moved around the corner on the Market Street, and the new bank was built in 1978. And then after 1978, this went through a few different things. People rented the second and third floors for different businesses. Let's see, where are we? There we are. This picture, of course, was taken from the parking lot of the Bank of Montreal. This is Market Street as it looks today, but it used to look like that. Same spot. This is the parking lot of the bank. You can see this curved window here. It was the same one that is here in Branch Stereo. Well, that one had to be replaced because of a fire, but they kept the brick, of course, and replaced the window. But all of these along here, this photo is from 1940 when Fort Fruits, right here, you see James Fort's Fruit and Produce. He moved down to Charlotte Street. Silverstein's relocated to George. And this little doorway right beside Silverstein's, right here. Believe it or not, there was a space between these buildings, and a man came and built a door frame, put a door on it, put a little roof on it, and he made a shoe shine box store in there. He opened the door, he pulled his shoe shine out onto the street, and that's what he utilized, a little tiny piece of space in downtown to open a business. And shortly after, this was 1940. Then the grocery store that was on the corner, it became the Dominion store in 1948. And then a few months later, the Odeon Theater opened next door 1948. And this color photo here is taken in the late 1950s. And the Dominion store downtown closed in 1977. Excuse me, it was renovated. That's where the Toronto Dominion Bank moved from that little building that was on the corner down here. This is now the Vegas Lounge. This became the Toronto Dominion Bank. And then they moved across the street to the new building when they tore down the bodega. And this is what that corner looks like today, or did. This is when it was Laurier and Mohawk College in the Odeon Theater and Nipissing in the building beside it. It's now all Laurier, the Odeon and the old grocery store are all parts of Laurier today. Here's another corner right across the street, of course. Everyone recognizes our. And before it was the Bank of Montreal, it was a home. Where's my thing here? I can't seem to get it. There we go. This was a house owned by Mr. Strobridge, Mr. R. Strobridge. He had grocery stores and things around town. He wasn't the Strobridge Motors that you might remember, some of you, but this house was built in the 1850s, right on that corner. And you notice the wooden sidewalks and the dirt streets. This would have been taken in the late 1800s. He sold this house to the Bank of Montreal when they wanted to move to larger quarters. They had a little bank over by Lorne Bridge on Colburn Street. They bought this and they made the front part of this house the bank, and they had the back part was the bank manager's home, his residence. They demolished the house in 1913. They were going through a real Bank of Montreal was going through a big surge of expansion, and they built this building. And of course, this picture is taken from the 1920s. This is before the addition went on the back here. They did put a small addition on the back to allow in 1951. And in 1970, they did some renovations also to the interior, but they have kept it pretty much the same. Beautiful interior, big, tall, big, high ceilings. And if you haven't been in this bank, you should go in and have a look at it. Just the interior is lovely. This famous corner downtown this stuff was all built in 1979, and all those original buildings are gone. These ones right here, the whole street of our old buildings are gone, but that's what it looks like today. That's what it looked like in the 1850s. And this is what it looked like in 1910. I think this is Dave McKee right here with the hat on. I'm pretty sure that's Dave. And then that's when it was Merrill's drugstore on the corner. Then in 1920s, it became Cole's drugstore on the corner. Betty Brown's candy shop. You see a lot of the stores along here. There was a Haganah Jewelers down here. The Market Street boot shop was here. White Bakery was right here. And of course, these famous right here, the ticket office on the corner for this Brantford Street Railway was also a public washroom. And there was no question as to that was a washroom if you walk by it in a warm summer day. But you can see our post office building in the back, and you can see the tower from the fire hall back here. You see the little peak on the corner of where the expositor building is. You can see the auditorium roof from the Sanderson Center. Of course, it was the Temple Theater then. And here it is in the mid-30s when it became Standard Drugs. And again, here's the ticket office for the Brantford Street Railway still. But this is Standard Drug and Laura Secord candies. Big sign up here, White Bakery down here. That's when downtown used to be really busy. Here it is in the mid 1960s. There's Dave with a new hat, and the yeah, this is a great picture. It shows the street railway. It shows and there's nothing better, in my opinion, than a black and white picture on a rainy day. It's beautiful. But that's standard drugs. And then that was in the 30s. This is 19 in the 60s, and it was starting to look a little shabby in the 1960s. Mr. Submarine, White Bakery still there. Um, Foster Jewelers here, but then it became Super X Drugs, and that's when Market Street was still open as a road, of course. We all know this bank, 1908. This was built by the Bank of Commerce, and they relocated from here. They were here as a bank until 2007. So they were there for 99 years. No, they were there for 109 years. And it went from the Imperial Bank to the Canadian Imperial Bank of Commerce. And there's what it looked like in one of its earlier iterations here. And you can see this is early enough. I don't know if you can see the right here. This is where the Sanderson Center now is right along in here. And you can see it was a bowling alley. There's actually a bowling alley, and next door to it was a liquor store. And those are what got torn down, and they make the entranceway now into what's now the Sanderson Center. Then it looked like this. Of course, it looks like the 1960s. And then we go to bounce over to this corner at 171 Clover Street. This was Holstein Place. This was what it looked like today. That is pretty much all now part of Laurier University, I believe. And it used to look like this. So it went from this to this. And this was an old saddlery shop and picture gallery. You can see all this right here with the peaky roof, the little peaked roof. That's the hotel that was there, and the Belmont Hotel. And over the years, it got bought by the Bank of Hamilton in 1908, and they renovated the building into this to make it the Bank of Hamilton. And by 1924, Bank of Hamilton amalgamated with the Canadian Bank of Commerce. And in the 1930s, this was the Canadian Pacific Railway ticket office here. And then it became the Bank of Nova Scotia in the 1940s. But this is the ticket office here for the Canadian Pacific Railway Telegraphs and Express office. But you can see this is the Belmont Hotel. Some of you remember these as Quinlan's and the Stag Menswear along here. And of course, this picture was not taken for these buildings, but was taken to show the tearing up of the street railway tracks. And here it is after it's all closed. You can see the clock up here is gone from here. That's now inside the new Bank of Nova Scotia across the street, Scotia Bank. This is when they were all empty and about to be torn down. You can see Market Street's closed off. And that was the hill where they used to have all the soapbox derbies down that street. And this is just before it got torn down. And now across from that, of course, is the library. And this is again, the same corner, but on the other, a little further east. This was built in 1992. It was opened, and again, there was a beautiful strip of stores along there, lovely argument, but all got devoured by fires. And this is looking back there's that corner that became the bank right here. And this is the corner, this is the building. And it's hard to read, but this is Ignatius Cockshut's dry goods store right here. And there, you can see it there. Cockshut, hardware, produce, imports, and dry goods. And there's a picture of Ignatius Cockshut right there with the top hat, next to Dave McKee in his top hat. Um, and Ignatius ran this business from 1832 to 1846 with his sister Jane, who became Jane Laycock, and then he bought her out of the business and ran it successfully between 1846, 1832 to 1852, and sorry, 1882, and then he passed away in 1901. Ignatius did, but there he is in front of his store with a whole bunch of prominent Brantford citizens. Their names are all across the bottom, but Mr. Laycock, who married his sister, Mr. Kipax, who also married one of his daughters, and she became that daughter had a daughter who married Sam Stedman. But look at the wooden sidewalks and the dirt streets, isn't it great? This is the same corner right here. You can see it FWF. So um, the his son WF Cockshut and his other son Frank um, took over the business when his dad retired. This is I'm pretty sure it's a staged picture because there's no possible way all these pictures were looking at a camera at the same time, all these people. But you can see this is the same corner, but again, it changed hands a few times, those stores. It then went on to become J.M. Young's, not J.H. Young's, the jewelers, J.M. Young. And it became J.M. Young's in the 50s. Then it became Woolworths in 1958. And in 1977, they rebranded themselves to Woolco. And in 1989, they left and the city bought the downtown Woolco store for 1.9 million and turned it into our current library, which is lovely, by the way. And my last little bit I've got for you here is this particular building, which is on the corner of Darling and George. And this building was built as a Sunday school for Zion Church, excuse me, which became now St. Andrews. But this particular building was built as the Sunday school in 1919. Same year they built the Sanderson Center. But this is built for the bank. Prior to that, it was the British Bank, the Bank of British North America. And that building was torn down to build that building to match the church. And they moved here in 1858 and took over this house and converted it into a bank. And when the Bank of British North America merged with the Bank of Montreal in 1919, the building was torn down to make room for the Zion Church Sunday School. And there we have it. Thank you all.